Hi, my name is John Hackworth. I am currently the technical director for St. Louis City SC in the MLS. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say in this presentation, I thought about things that have sustained me and allowed me to be successful in my own career, both as a player, which was quite a long time ago, and as a coach. And probably more significantly, as a coach, as a leader in the game. I've been doing this for over 30 years. And I was thinking about a story or some things that I could relate to you guys that would exemplify the fact that there are things that you just have to overcome in your career that allow you to be successful. Coincidentally, a friend of mine told me that I was on FIFA 24, and he was using me as a coach on FIFA 24. It was very strange to me, and I asked him, well, what does FIFA 24 say about me? And he said, it says that determination is your greatest strength. And I was kind of put off. I thought, I'm a really good leader. I'm a good man manager. I'm good tactically. I think my training sessions are great. Determination is what FIFA says is my greatest strength. So I kind of thought about that, and I said, you know what? It is a strength of mine. I've certainly had to use it both as a player and as a coach and as a leader and a person in this profession many times. And there's one story I think that exemplifies the fact that, I was determined. So the story goes that I was in between jobs. I was leaving the under 17 residency program in 2007. Fantastic job. Still to this day, my favorite position that I've ever held. And I was becoming the assistant coach with the men's national team. I was going to work for Bob Bradley, be on his staff as we attempted to qualify for the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. So our first trip that I was on as an assistant coach was to Johannesburg, South Africa, and we were going to play in a game against South Africa called the Nelson Mandela Cup. So to get from, I lived a little south of Tampa, Florida at that time, and to get from Tampa, Florida to Johannesburg is quite the trip. I had to fly from Tampa to DC, DC to Paris, Paris to Johannesburg. All told, I think it's about 32 hours I was in the air or in the airports to get to Johannesburg. I was one of the first people in our delegation to arrive. I think I was walking up to the customs and immigration, and Brad Guzan was behind me and Carlos Bocanegra was behind him. We were the first three to arrive. Unfortunately, we were arriving the day before a holiday in South Africa, and it just so happened that the people that were working that day were at the end of a really long shift. Later learned that it somewhere between 12 to 16 hour shift. These people were not happy. I show up, and apparently I didn't have enough room in my passport to clear immigration and be admitted to the country. I got put in a holding cell. I mean, I felt like I was in jail. I had no control over the situation. After sitting there for a couple hours, one of the immigration people came in and they said I had to go back to my original destination. Now, this meant that I had to fly back to DC, where I departed for Johannesburg. And I asked them, I said, what do you mean? And they said, yep, you're gonna have to go back to DC. That's where your flight originated for this. You have to go back. And I tried to explain to the point of frustration and almost tears that, the first time I was ever representing the U.S. men's national team as an assistant coach, I had to be there. They said, tough luck, you have to go back. They walked me back down the terminal and onto the same plane that brought me. Cleaned up a little bit. I flew back to Paris and then back to DC. Meanwhile, the rest of the entire U.S. men's team, they'd heard of this story. And our administrator at the time, she took care of everything. She made sure that anybody that had the same situation as me in terms of not enough room in a passport, they got into the country, no problem. But I was the lesson learned for the whole team. Again, my first ever trip. So as I'm walking back down to the same airplane that I flew in on, I'm thinking to myself, what in the world I'm not going to be able to do my job. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to miss out on this amazing opportunity. And the one thing that I thought of immediately was, well, okay, how can I problem solve? Like, what can I do? I was thinking terrible thoughts. And I thought to myself, the only thing I can do is try. I need to try to get the passport agency in Washington to add pages to my passport. I need to try to do that in an amazingly short amount of time. And I need to try to get back on a plane that will get me back to Johannesburg in time for the game. I believe when I was departing Johannesburg for the first time, it was a Sunday evening. I arrived back in Washington on Monday afternoon. Tuesday morning, I was at the door of the passport office, passport in hand, and I explained what had happened. They said normally there would be no way they could add pages to a passport and get it back to me, but in this special case, they would try. They would try to get it back by the end of the day. So I then booked a flight back to Johannesburg for later on that evening. Long story short, it worked out. I got the passport, I think somewhere in the late afternoon. I got to Dulles Airport. I got on a flight, that evening to Paris. I connected to Johannesburg. I showed up in Johannesburg late on Tuesday, and we played on Wednesday. The staff, Bob Bradley in particular, and the players, especially Brad Guzan and Carlos Bocanegra, they couldn't believe that I actually was back. They couldn't believe that I went back to the United States and flew back. And when they, were grilling me about it, I said, what choice did I have? Like, this is a new opportunity for me. The only thing that I could control was the fact that I was gonna try my hardest to be part of it. But it was one heck of a trip. I think it ended up being about 5 days in the air to debut for the first time with the men's national team, but it all worked out. I arrived in Johannesburg. I was on the bench for that game, and later we did qualify for the 2010 World Cup. So that's my story, or that one particular story. And again, determination was definitely the thing that sustained me throughout some incredibly tough days of travel and just obstacles in general about how I could actually get back there. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope it helps you if you ever find yourself stuck in the world and know that you got some long flights ahead. Just think of me. I was in the air for about 5 days, but it all worked out. Thank you.